Me and Ed Westwick, who played Chuck on the show.
Yes.
You know, he was like an 18-year-old kid from like outside of London. He thought he was like Pete Doherty, right? I was just in college. Like, I didn't know how expensive New York is. It was insane. I'm like, my dad had to like give us the like security deposit and first month's and last month's rent until we got our first paycheck. It was like hilarious. So I'm like, Ed, you want to like room together? And like, this is crazy. Like this rent. I'm looking at this. He's like, oh yeah, sure, man. You know, he had no idea. And we had, and like first summer, we like moving in July, like probably just turned 21 or 22. And we were like at the summer series in Central Park. I don't know if you remember any of that, but they had like big concerts out there. And it was like the Black Keys, Arctic Monkeys. I might be dating myself, but it was awesome. It's awesome. Sun's out, beers. And the show hadn't even come out. We'd shot the pilot. We just moved there and we were having a blast. Just him and I just exploring the city. And these girls did come up to us, and it was kind of freaked us out a little bit because we didn't know. And he kind of looked at me, he's like, I think we're fucked, Mike. He's like, show hasn't even come out yet. Like this whole thing. And that moment is pretty crystallized in my mind because it was all like the Black Keys were playing. It was just like,
but you're just being like normal dudes, like sitting, chilling. And then it's like, hello?
That was the very first time I think anyone ever asked for any type of picture. So that was that. I do remember that as being like a defining, like, oh, interesting. That's a weird feeling.
How did you initially handle that, like, fame and attention?
Not well, actually, not well. It kind of made me paranoid, to be honest.
Really?
Like, slightly. I don't want to say it was like this terrible thing. It was fun, but like you said, people come out of the woodwork, like people start acting weird around fame, and you start realizing all these things that you can only realize from that seed. Yeah. But I mean, I don't want to act like it was this thing. It was, we had a blast. For me, it was all about having fun. Like I had so much fun, but it was, you just are always kind of like, you kind of aren't present all the time. Like you kind of just kind of like wary about people or phones, like a little bit, like not, you know. New York's interesting because it's like you get all this influx of people and tourists, and you're not only you're that character in that city, so it's like Mickey Mouse in Disneyland. They all want to see, like, take a photo with like Mickey, so you feel like they just come up and hug you, and it's like you're in this costume.
Like, were people calling you Nate on the street
all the time? That was it. That was it was always the character's name. Yeah. It was crazy. It blurs the lines a lot, you know, and it was just weird. It was like a really weird, like if we were shooting exactly in Toronto, it's a different thing, but people are visiting New York, and it was its own character in the show, you know, and people are like, you know, fans of the show, and when they see you actually in that environment, it's like this whole, like, their mind is blown, you know. So it was a doubly interesting thing.
And it's also weird to be in New York City as you, like, I think it's interesting because I just asked you at the beginning of this, like, oh, could you relate to anything? You're from Texas, this character, and you're like, no. And then all of a sudden you went from not being able to relate to anything about this character to, like, you almost were becoming